To that, I'm very honored to have with me today Matthew Baldwin. He's Deputy Director General of DG Move, and he will be kicking us off today with a keynote and really kicking things into gear for today. Matthew, the floor is all yours, please.
Place Forum, my first time. I'm wearing multiple hats here with you today. The main hat I want to wear is as the mission manager for the plan. I think you discussed it a bit yesterday, to come up with 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. But I've also got a background in road safety and sustainable urban mobility. So just to know, so that you know where I'm coming from. I'm very pleased to be speaking in front of this very important plenary session on finance for sustainability, because I think, if you like, I would try to set out the what we're trying to achieve in terms of the climate neutral cities mission and the why in European cities. And then I think the plenary session can offer some real pointers as to how finance can help, because it's going to be absolutely central to our success. And I'll say a bit more about that. I don't think I need to say to this audience why climate neutrality is so important, but in two words, we need to be a climate neutral a climate neutral continent by 2050, in line with the Paris Accords. That means strong intermediate steps along the way. We are pledged to be at least 55% down in terms of our climate emissions by 2030. Furious and hard work going on inside the Commission now to put together the Fit for 55 package, and you can expect to see that emerge onto the streets next month. And why are energy and mobility so important? Well, as you know, again, they account for roughly 80% of our climate emissions, and mobility is a particular concern, 25% of all climate emissions, and growing. The only sector, I believe, which is growing. Why cities? Well, again, I hope that's an obvious question in a way. 3 out of 4 of our cities are living in cities. It's going to rise to 85% by 2050. Cities are already consuming around 2/3 of the world's energy and have around 70% of global CO2 emissions. Cities, therefore, are an inevitable starting point. If you look at the characteristics of cities, high levels of population density, geographic focus, they lend themselves to measures which will have a large impact on climate neutrality. Cities, for example, represent a large share of Europe's building stock, where renovation is an absolute must if we're going to save energy on the way to climate neutrality. And if you think about urban mobility, it's not just about the reduction of greenhouse gases that bring benefits to society. It's what I call the co-benefits: the better air quality, the fewer road deaths, the reductions in road congestion, the healthier active mobility, less noise. These are the positive spillover effects that can come from our action to tackle climate change. And these are also, by the way, the ways in which cities can engage and sell or justify the necessary measures to their citizens. Why smart? Well, I often struggle a bit with this word, because the word smart implies that what it's replacing or coming instead of is necessarily stupid, and it isn't always necessarily the case. If you like, I think smart has a real role in what we're trying to achieve in cities, because cities are also very advanced in their digital transformation, to take that aspect. Smart city solutions, data sharing at scale, are offering huge opportunities to plan, to implement and monitor reductions in emissions across a whole range of sectors, such as urban mobility and energy efficiency. They're the right starting point, if you like, these twin digital and green transitions, again, because of the potential for social, environmental and economic impacts of the data revolution. Cities are super well placed to draw on the fundamental transformative and cross-cutting power of data in the digital area. I think smart in another sense, in that we need to think about working across sectors, not sector by sector, focusing all our efforts inwardly on urban mobility or on energy efficiency. We need to develop an overall approach, including on investment, a portfolio, and not just a project approach. Smart, too, in involving citizens from the outset, to ensure that our sustainable approach is sustainable in the sense of being long-standing and maintained over a long period of time. We need to keep our sustainability sustainable? And in that context, again, I really acknowledge the work that the Smart Cities Marketplace has done as a forerunner. So many of these things that I'm talking about today. If I hear you cry, do we really need another European Union Green City initiative? Well, you might be surprised to learn that, yes, I think we do. It's important to stress that we are not reinventing the wheel. We are very much building on existing initiatives in cities themselves. There are already some very important cities, including Leuven, we're going to hear from them a bit later, committed to climate neutrality. Not that many, but some, and they're laying an important pathway for all other cities to follow. We see nascent national and regional networks of cities, such as the Viable Cities platform in Sweden. So cities learning from each other, thinking about how they can tackle this. And building on what the EU has done in terms of its programs, we want to draw heavily on what we're doing, for example, in the EU digital strategy and related objectives. Our own here in DG Move, smart and sustainable mobility strategy sets out a number of pointers. We've got the new renovation wave, for example, for sustainable energy, the zero pollution action plan. All of these things are not things we're aiming to replace or supplant or ignore. We want to build on them and indeed try to help cities develop synergies from working with us, because we'll hopefully be able to plug them in to different cities, to different projects. So in what sense then are we offering real added value? I think there's a couple of aspects where we are unique, he said proudly. Firstly, we are really trying to apply this holistic concept of working across all sectors. We're asking cities to make their cities climate neutral across all fronts, on mobility, on energy efficiency, on energy production, on the circular economy, on waste management, and so on. But it's not a top-down approach. Each city's individual needs to be addressed. Every city is different, including right here in Belgium. And so the whole notion, and I'll come on to explain of it, will be to identify for each city what it needs, for the city to identify what it needs in terms of the combination of policy and investment packages. And that's the idea behind really focusing cities get all the way to climate neutrality. There's no program that's trying to do that in the European Union at the moment. We'll really go 100%. Again, we've got a few cities committed already. If I could put it in a nutshell, our goal is to try to ensure that we have a large number of cities that can deliver on climate neutrality by 2030, and that they're preparing the path for all others to follow. Again, if we're going to have a climate neutral continent by 2050, we're going to need all our cities there. Cities can be the forerunners, the pathfinders, and we want to enable them to do that. We want as many cities as possible, as soon as possible. Quickly on the how we're going to move forward. I'm very much hoping that we'll get a formal green light from the Commission before the summer break, saying that we can now really fire our starting motors. We will then launch a call for expression of interest this September. It'll be quite a deep expression of interest in the sense that we want cities to really explain how and why they're ready to do this, including at the level of political commitment from their mayors or their governing bodies. And then from next year onwards, we'll be asking cities to co-create what we call climate city contracts. What's the nature of those contracts? A memorandum of understanding, not a legally binding thing. We're not planning to sue cities if they can't achieve the climate neutrality goals they set, but we want something substantive, which really sets out what they need and how they're planning to do it, and critically, including an investment plan. And again, I'll come on to that in more detail. We will develop a mission platform, which will be, if you like, a one-stop platform to help cities do all the different activities, bring them all together. And that will be operational from later this year as well, and be ready to jump in on the first 30 cities, we really think quite quickly. And the whole notion will be that these climate city contracts would be co-created, of course, with the Commission, but also with these national networks, with their regional authorities. I don't think we should or could regard cities as atomized entities that can do it all on their own. We also need to put the cities in their context, in their peri-urban context, to see how they're going to achieve these things. And so finally, to the numbers, to the finance. A lot of people say to me, how on earth is the European Commission going to pay for all of this? Well, the short answer is we're not. There will be a certain amount of funding coming from Horizon Europe, which is, if you like, our home. The research and innovation basis to our work is going to be central. It will be from the start, and it will be through the lifetime of the project. But the vast majority of funding is not going to come from the EU budget. It's not going to come from national budgets. Indeed, I don't think it's even going to come from city budgets. Let me try to explain why, illustrating with a study from Material Economics, who did the work, some very important groundwork for the original Mission Board report. They estimate, if you take 100 cities of 100,000 population on average, so not even the biggest cities, the total cost of that is in the range of 96 billion euros, roughly $1 billion per city. The good news is, if you look then at the kinds of actions that need to be done, the benefits will be reaped over the not very long term by cities in terms of the things, the co-benefits I talked about, the health benefits, the reduced road deaths, the reduced road congestion, the lower energy bills. But that's still a large sum of money to find. And again, the Material Economics study estimated that only 17% of the investment is going to come directly from cities themselves. When we look at the issues, it's going to be central, indeed, that we mobilize the full EU budget, the Recovery and Resilience Fund. Yep, there will be certainly millions of euros flowing to sustainable mobility and efficiency projects through that. There will be the new round of cohesion funding, with an 8% set aside for urban work, fully 30% aimed at climate lending. The European Investment Bank, with whom we're working closely, is also pledged to reach 50% climate lending by 2025 in its efforts to become the European Climate Bank. But I want to pay tribute to some of the work done, for example, by the Smart Cities and Communities Lighthouse Projects Group, who've really looked in detail at some of these financing issues. And they pinpoint for us quite handily some of the difficulties when you look at it from a financial perspective. And the limited number of investment-ready, bankable evaluations of projects, the lack of revenue evidence business models, the shortage in the creation of innovative turnkey funding schemes, the absence of the measurement of discounted social impacts in terms of income statements or cash flows. And I could go on. The problems, in short, if we're not careful, we could feel like they're going to overwhelm us. And I don't think we should address it like that, because I think when I talk to finance guys, they are, frankly, watering at the mouth in terms of the opportunities that all of this can generate. The availability and the supply of private financing for green investment, we believe, is crucial. Inside the Commission, we've been looking hard at this. In 2020, we came forward with the taxonomy regulation, creating a classification systems for green economic activities. We've now gone further with a recent delegated act in April, which provides a long list of economic activities that can substantially contribute to both climate change mitigation and adaptation objectives. What this does, in a nutshell, is facilitate the scaling up of potential new green financial products, such as the green and sustainability-linked bonds, as well as green securitization, which we think are very much suitable to increase not just the quantity, but the quality of expenditure in cities, back to that overall programmatic focus, less a project based approach, helping redirect resources towards green, smart, and productive investments. And this is the point on which I want to end, and I want to pass the baton on to the plenary session and the panel to follow, because we are very excited by these possibilities of creating investment or crowdfunding platforms, the issuing of green bonds, not just by cities, but by companies, for the good reason that they see these as fantastic investment opportunities. The funds raised could be dedicated, possibly blended with funding provided by local authorities, and targeted at the respective sustainable infrastructure projects. We can build on all the learning we've done through the projects like Eleanor. We're going to hear about some of the benefits of the Eleanor work in Leuven and in Amsterdam later this morning. But the key to all of this is the local dimension. If I could just finish on that point, it's not just about external financing, but increasing the ownership by citizens of this transformation process, the ownership and the involvement in green projects by local communities. What better way to signal your personal investment in the sustainable and green future of your city than being able to invest yourself in a green bond pledged to make your city carbon neutral with all the co-benefits that can bring. In short, I think it's an exciting project. It's the most exciting thing I've done in many years of work in the European Commission. The passion, the determination of the cities to deliver climate neutrality, to realize the co-benefits we've been talking about, the excitement I've experienced in the investment community, and the wealth of experience that we've got already to build on and develop for the future really makes me very optimistic for the future of this mission. We would like to work with you, and I hope this is the first of many conversations we can have. And I think with that, I shall stop because I really want to be able to listen in. I'm afraid I can't stay very long to the opening part of the next plenary session. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.